Close the doors of your mind, your lave, your lav, your yetzer, your makashaba, from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all emotions, all desires, all fears, all laziness within your thoughts and your mind, all doubt, all demonic thought, all the powers of mastama that may be lodged in your consciousness. And bring your mind to balance and bring it under your feet. And all the seeds of Satan that's been sown throughout your mind, throughout your life from your birth to present. And all the beliefs that one has, been taught since the time they've been born until present. And bring your mind to balance within yourself, that you may discern between Taub and Rod, good and evil in your own mind, and your own thoughts, and your own life. For today is the day of freedom. Today is the day of warning. Today is the day that Yahuwah has given to us as a Natan, as a gift to us, another Shabath, that we may cease from our labors and our ways and our own understanding and our own thoughts and our own mind, not doing our own pleasures, that we may ride upon the high places, upon the wings, they say, Abraku Kanaf Halak Ruach, upon the wings of the wind, that he may feed us without a that we may walk in righteousness and purity of mind and purity of thought, with pure hands, pure feet, pure thoughts, pure prayer, that we don't upset the whole Shamayim and bring destruction on our lives. So today we acknowledge the one who made all of the Har of the earth, and then the Har of the earth, the rivers and streams on top of the earth and under the earth. The one who sends the floods and the rains and the storms and the windstorms, the one who gives life and understanding, the one who rains down fire, the one who gives and puts out fires, the one who allows us to find shalom and peace within ourselves, the one who causes calamity within our life, in our heart and our mind, the one who allows us and gives us over to our own desires if we rebel against him. Yahuwah Elohim, who sits above the highest Shamayim and above the 13th Shamayim, above the 7 heavens, who governs the 7 celestial circles and the 7 muaz and the 7 eyes of the near, of the menorah. So this yom, as we move forward in kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, amuna, but we will in no wise show partiality and judgment within ourselves, within our heart and our mind, within our hands and our feet, within our livers and our kidneys, within our axons and our dendrites, within our heart that pumps the left, he say blood out of our left and right ventricle within ourselves. We won't. Because if you do, you're going to meet another judge. And that's the judge when you leave and you go, and everybody will give an account for everything that's done in your body. Right, so this is the Yeshayahu 55, 10 through 13. For as rain and snow or Geshem and Shaled come down from the Shamaim and do not return but water the earth, making it bring forth Yala. It says that bring forth the Yala and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall the bar, the word be that goes out of my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish with that which I purpose, and shall succeed in the thing for which I sent it. So we're now in the springtime, looking for that first and latter rain. Because if the rain don't come, then we don't grow. And if we don't grow and nothing sprouts up, then we will have nothing to eat. Both naturally and ruach, but ruach first, right? And it says, verse 12, for you shall go out in joy and be led forth in shalom, peace. That's the only way you're going to be able to be led out. People say, I want to get out of prison. I want to get out of this situation. I want to get out of this turmoil in my mind. But guess what? The only way you're going to be led out, led forth, is you have to find shalom. That's why Shaul told us, he said, Yahuwah has called us to peace. Right? So if you don't have that shalom within yourself, within your household, within your body, within your household, in your life, and with other people, then guess what? He said, you can't go out in joy, and you can't be led forth in peace. Because these are all the fruits of the Ruach. Kindness, ahab, joy, peace. Right? The mountains and the hills before you shall break forth into singing, and then you won't be able to sing. People say, well, I can't sing, because you got no joy and no shalom, and that's why you can't sing. That's why he said, that's why they have no singing. That's more than one, that's moral, that's plural. And it says, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. That's why we talked about the yard yesterday. Right? Last evening, they say, clapping your hands, that's your yard. Right? You clap your hands, your branches. Verse 13, instead of thorns shall come up the cypress. Instead of briars shall come up myrtle. This is what's going to happen. We talked about Romans chapter 1, where he talks about how he's going to give people up. He said, because they worship the creature more than the creator. They left their first nature and they went after other things. And it says it's going to come up briars and near. This is going to come up. And it shall make, and it shall make a name for Yahuwah, an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off, right? Right? It said, but it said instead of briars, it shall come up myrtle, right? So if you want your briars not to come up, are your thorns? You know, the pointing of the finger, that's what a thorn is. Like, it'll poke at you. If you walk through trees, it'll poke at you. Right? If you get a thorn instead of a cypress, if you got thorns, you ain't got no cypress and myrtle, these are all trees you need to put on your sukkah. Right? And that's in the 7th month. But we're in the 1st. But it says, and it shall be, make a name for Yahuwah. That's what you're going to do. You ain't going to make a name for yourself. So I'm going to make a name for Yahuwah. Why? Because I got to make sure by the time this is over and your life is over that the Jerusalem is praising the earth again. Because the teachings of peace is supposed to be, the shalom is supposed to be in the world. And you got to make sure you make sure that is established before you leave here. He says, why? Because that's his whole goal. He says, an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off. And you know that sign that he gave was when he gave us on the 4th day of creation. He gave it for signs, seasons, days, months, and years. And these are all a part of it, right? So that word for succeed, of course, we know Selah. It means to make progress. That's what we're trying to do. Make progress. Break out. That's why we put out. He said, why are you putting out more information? Because we losing. I guess people get, when you start losing so much, you just get tired of losing. Why? Because if you want to if you want to win, you got to stop trying. You got to start putting extra effort in. I'm tired of losing. He said, I don't want to lose anymore. We've been losing for a long, long time. It's about time to start winning, right? But it says right here, make progress, to prosper, to break out, to push forward, right? To rush, to break forth, successful, right? All this is a part of it. To come mightily, right? To come mightily, right? Get up out of there, right? He said we got to get out victoriously. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to win. And he said people talk about they want to win, but they don't know the actual, like in certain, how you say, professional athletics, you got to study the game plan in order to win the game. You got to study past film of other people, and you can do that in Torah. You can study on YouTube. Look at all the people who gossip and slander, got hatred and jealousy and envy. The one who blackmail their husbands, blackmail their wives, do all types of things, lie. They do it all. They put it on YouTube. You can study the film right there. You can study the film, how people gather money, and you can see how they actually look at how they take the money from people and don't even use it for the right purposes. You can see this. You can study the film. And then you can go through the game plan and be like, man, this person making a lot of mistakes. That woman making a lot of mistakes in her marriage. That man making a lot of mistakes as a wife, as a husband. That daughter making a lot of mistakes with her father. That daughter making a lot of mistakes with her mother. That son making a lot of mistakes with her father. You can see all these. You can study the film. That's what Yahuwah is doing every day. He looking at your film. He'd be like, man, you making a lot of mistakes. Are you really putting the effort in? Are you studying this stuff? Because if you are, then why are you not executing it? Right? These are all a part of life. Right? And you learn this as you go, right? So this is the book of Sirach, chapter 1, 2 through 10. Who can number the sand of the sea? Like, who can number it? We talk about Yahuwah's son. Who can count his thoughts in Psalms 139, Tahalim? Who can count the sum of his thoughts? And the drops of rain. Can you count them? How many drops of rain and snow come down from Shamayim so did the Barbie that came out of his mouth? How many drops have already fallen on earth since Adam was cast out at the garden? He was Garash. Just like the children of Yasharah was Garash out of Mizraim. Just like Cain was Garash out of the presence of Yahuwah when he killed Abyd. And it says, in the days of eternity, can you count them? No. Who can find out the height of Shamayim? Can you measure it? It's infinite. Who can? Psalms 139 tell you that. And it says, in the breadth of the earth, and the deep, and wisdom, and hakmah. Can you even do that? Can we measure this out? Can we get a tape measure that only go maybe 90 feet? it may go 90 feet, and that's pretty much it. 90 feet, maybe that. And can you take that tape measure and go measure Shamayim? No, you're gonna need about a quintillion Googleplex, and that probably won't even be enough. And it says right here, verse 4, wisdom has been created before all things, and understanding of prudence from everlasting. That's before everything was. Hakmah. But who can number the sands of the sea? And it says, the word of Yahuwah Most High is the fountain of Hakmah, and her ways are an everlasting commandment. So the bar that comes out of his mouth is the fountain of wisdom. The bar, whether you see it written in a book, or if it spoke audibly out of someone's mouth, he say, man, that sounds like the word of Yahuwah. And you be like, let me go verify it. And then you say, yeah, that's the word of Yahuwah. And then it says, and her ways are an everlasting commandment. It's everlasting. And it says what? To whom hath the root of Hakmah been revealed? Or who have known her wise counsel? Has it been revealed to you? Yahusha said, he said, no man can come to me except the Abba which sent me draw you. And to whomever the Son of Yahuwah will reveal himself. Right? And it says, verse 7, unto whom have knowledge of Hakmah been manifest, and who have understood her great experience. So we talk about great experience. Like we talk about the experiences of our life. Whether we went through pain, hurt, we got increases, got prosperity. Times we lost prosperity. Times we lost relationships or lost things in our life. The things we went through in childhood up until this time. But understand, Hakmah, was it manifest to you then? He say redeeming the time, seeing that the days are evil, like the days are raw, it's getting eviler. So wisdom, Hakmah been made manifest? It says a virtuous woman, she speaks with wisdom. And kindness come out of her mouth. These are all the part of Kayil woman. Like all that's a part of it. Verse 8 says, there is one wise and greatly to be feared, right? So after we get through all that, Yahuwah sitting upon his what? Upon his throne. You know what we just read in the Dead Sea Scrolls yesterday? We talked about his seat and his majesty and everything that comes out from his throne. And we see, and it has perpetual light and darkness. Who can number the days of the earth? How many days have been here? They tell you billions and 20 billions. How many evenings have been on the earth? How many mornings have been on the earth? They're gonna go past 1 billion. They're gonna go past that number, right? And it says verse 9, he created her and saw her and numbered her and poured her upon all his works, right? So we look at all that. Verse 10 says, she is with all flesh according to his gifts, and he hath given her to them that love him. He say, what? He said, and then people say, how many days have been on the earth? How many morning and evenings? I said, were you here during the time of Nude? You know, the city? Were you here during the time when Cain built his city? No, you weren't here. Were you here when it first touched Adam's skin? What about before it touched Adam's skin? Were you here before that? Before Adam even first touched his skin? Right? And it says right here, she is with all flesh according to his gift. So any man that desires wisdom, man or woman, Yahuwah gives it to everyone. If you desire it, he said, I'll give you all that Hakmah. Right? And you'll never run out of stuff to talk about once you get it. People say, I never had a conversation before. I can't hold. When you get it, you'll never run out of conversation. Right? And it says, and he has given her to them that love him. He said, say what? To those who love him. Aha. So you got to have love, joy, and you got to have Hakmah and all this stuff in you to be led out in peace. He said, I got to have all that? Yeah, he said, you got to have it. Right? They put these things out, I got to have it. Right? You get you a Twix, get you 2 of them and you eat it. Those are good too. This is Abyd, Job 6:1. It says, then Abyd answered and said, oh, that my vexation were weighed, and all my calamity laid in the balance. Oh, you mean mazun. For then it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Who can number the sand of the sea? He said, if it was all in balance, you know how many sands in the sea? He's like, man, if I could count every single vexation that I feel throughout my life. He said, if I hold it, it'd be more. He said, it'll be heavier than the sand of the sea. You know how much that is? And it tells us to lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily gets us in the book of Hebrews. But then you see that and you say, man, it said, therefore my words have been rash. He's like, I've been saying a bunch of stuff, and he's like, man, when you really think about it, he's like, man, it'd be heavier than the sea, the young. And this verse right here, verse 4 says, for the arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit drinks their poison, my ruach. He said, they're in me. He said, he's shooting his darts. You ever seen them tribal people, they run, they shoot them darts? And they shoot those darts in those places. For the terrors of Elohim are arrayed against me. Does the wild donkey bray when he has grass? Does he go away? No. But you have some people do. They run away from the bar. That's why he said they do evil, hate the light. Neither come to it. Why? Because they don't. He said, shall a wild donkey bray when he has no grass, or an ox over his fodder? He said, shall he leave that? Can that which is tasteless be eaten without salt? Or there is any taste in the juice of mallow? My appetite or my nafash refuses to touch them. That's what people do. He said, man, refuse. I refuse it. He says, I refuse to touch them. They are food that is loathsome to me. He's like, this is food that's loathsome, right? Because he's talking about eating. He said, I can't even touch it. Because he's talking about all the terror and the poison that's inside of him. And he said, if I was supposed to count my vexation, it would be heavier than the sand of the sea, right? So that word for vexation is ka'as. It means, he said, and then Ayub said, oh, that my vexation will weigh. He says, my ka'as, my anger, my vexation, my grief. He said, if it was weighed, just like Yahushua, it said Yahushua was a man of sorrows acquainted with grief. If he weighed it, if you weigh all the things you have, because all that immersion Yahushua put him on, you should feel that. You should feel how he felt. If you really put him on. But people are hard-hearted. He said they heartless. He said, how does a man and a woman, how does a woman become heartless? He said, heartless. How does a man become heartless? Right? And it said right here, because they got heavy weights on the inside. That's how. Right? So that word for balance is the mazun. Of course, we know that. He said, if my calamity was weighed, it'd be, he said, balance, it'd be mazun. And we know mazun is the meme, aleph, zan, and noon equals to 98, equals to 17, which equals to 8. That's Yahuwah. He said what? Oh, that my vexation was weighed and all my calamity laid in the balances. He said that equal to 8. If it was, he's like, man, balance all this out for me. But you know how we balance it out? When you use Yahuwah name, you got the woo in the middle. Joined to a masculine and feminine, joined together. That's the only way you're going to understand the rest of it. That's the only way you're going to understand the rest of it. Right? That's the only way. Right? So that word for heavier, he said, for then it will be heavier. So that word for heavy is kabod, to be heavy, weighed, grievous. He said it's going to be grievous. It means be dull, burdensome. If it was heavier, unresponsive. He said, people say, why are you unresponsive? You ever seen a person that's unresponsive, that won't say anything, that won't give you a response? He said, unresponsive, that means they got what? For it will be heavier than sand and cedar, which means they got heavy weights on the inside of them. They got vexation. They got grief on the inside of them. Then you got to say, what is that grief? What is that vexation? Is it the feeling that what Yahusha did? Or is it a feeling of what you did to somebody else? Right. And it says right here, to be heavy. That you add a kabod, it's kaf, ba'ith, daleth. Kaf is 20, daleth is, ba'ith is 2, and daleth is 4. which equals to what? 26, which equals to 8. And you guess what happens after that? Just like your balance is equals to 8, and it's heavy. He said, if I balance it equals to 8, so who put all that stuff on you? Who put it on you? People say, why Yahuwah put all that stuff on me? Because Yahuwah's name equals to 26. Why would he put all that stuff on you? Why would he put the 8? Why he put that? Because you know what's the 8? You know, when you look at this fruits of the spirit, kindness, of how, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, he said gentleness, self-control. Because your gentleness is gone. It weighing you down. It's weighing you down. That's why. Like we talk about it. We talk about those fruits of the Ruach, but when you get to the 8th one, we talk about gentleness. Because what's holding you, what's weighing you down, the grief, and what has you, is took away your gentleness. And he said you're on the brink of losing self-control. Because that's a 9. So this word for then, it will be heavier than the sand of the sea. So it would be heavier than the sand. Man, it would be heavier than the sand. That word for sand is cool. 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 It would be heavier than the sand. That's cool. You know, like cool. Man, you cool, man. How you cool when you grief and you're in pain, you got grief and all these things on the inside, you heavy. How are you cool? Like how you say in the world, you cool. He said that's why he told us to lay aside. Right, when it says right here, cool, it means what? Qahalath is 8. It means sand though. Whirling particles. Right? And it says right here, the word for Qahalath, right? You say cool is Qahalath, Wu, and Lamed. The Qahalath is 8, because we know that. The Wu is 6, and the Lamed is 30. Amazingly. And it equals to 44. Which you add 4 plus 4 equals to 8. And he said, why does this keep appearing? Because it's affecting your gentleness. It's affecting you. And you say, why? And why is Yahuwah putting this on you? Why are you talking about this? He said, who can number the sand of the sea? Can you do that? Can you do that? Who can number the sand of the sea? Right, you look at this, right? Look at the sand of the sea. Right, you got black sea, right? That's one color. You got this copper color. Right, that's the Black Sea in Iceland. This is copper color. They got black sand. This is another color of sand. It's like a copper color. Here's a red color of the sand of the sea. And here's what you call like a peach white color of the sand of the sea. He said, who can count? Who can count the number of the sand of the sea? Who can hold it? Man, if you count my grief and my sorrow, it'd be heavier than the sand of the sea. It'd be heavier than that, right? He said it'd be heavier than that, right? It's different colors of sand. Look at that. Red, that's desert sand. You got peach brown sand, light brown. All that. I mean, guess what? It's all different colors. The sand of the sea is different colors. And amazingly, you got this man, he's saying, man, who can count the sand of the sea? Who can even count it? You know, there's one greatly to be feared, Yahuwah on his throne, right? So this is the book of Job, Abyd 6:1. Right? Again, then Eve said, oh, that my vexation will weigh, and all my calamity laid in balance, Mazum, for it will be heavier than the sand of the sea. And it says, therefore my words have been rash. You know how many people were saying stuff out of their mouth that's been very rash? Like they've been saying a lot of stuff. For the arrows of the Almighty are in me, and my Ruach drinks their poison. And the terror of the Elohim has arrayed against me. Does the wild donkey bray when he has no grass? Or the ox, the fodder? Can that which is tasteless be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the juice of the mallow? My appetite, nefesh, refuses to touch him. He said, I'm not eating it. Why? Because he said, I refuse. He said, I've been rash with my mouth. They are food that is loathsome to me, right? He said, I can't eat it, right? So that word for arrows, he said, for the arrows of the Almighty are in me. The arrows, it means kits. It means to a piercer. A piercer, a wound. He was wounded for our iniquity. He was pierced and wounded for our transgressions. As a matter of fact, he had a lot of pain on him. Matter of fact, he was heavy too. And amazingly, when you look at cuts, you get the kaf and the sa, which equals to what? Kaf is 8, and the sa is 90, which equals to what? 98, which equals to 17, which equals to 8. Amazing, there it go again. All in here. He said, why? Because Yahuwah put it on you. He said, the only reason he put it on you because he's trying to open your eyes. He said, I'm trying to open your eyes. And you know what he's trying to do? It's like a dart. He said, it should feel like one. It's like a dart. Right? And he said, my appetite refuses to touch them. They are food that is loathsome. That word for appetite is nefash. It says, my soul, myself, creature, my seat of emotions and passions. You know why? Because you heavy. He said, that's why you ain't got no gentleness. That's why you have no self-control. That's why you have no love. That's why you have no joy. That's why you have none of it. Because you heavy. He said, you full of grief and sorrow. And he said, why? Right? So that word for it is food, is loathsome to me, is lakam, this bread that I'm eating. You know, Yahusha said, I'm the bread which came down from Shamayim. Didn't he say that? This lakam, that word for food is lakam. And we getting ready to go to unleavened bread. Kagmatza, pasak. He said this food is lakam. It's loathsome. It's like, ugh. I'm not eating that. I'm not eating that. It's just like venomous poison of the snake. The only way you can kill the venom in your body, you know, that heavy feeling, that grief, you gotta put venom in. And that venom that you took was from Satan taking over your body, and now Yahushua say, let me take over your body and you eat this lakam. And I'll cancel it out. And you won't have no grief no more. He said, but people don't want the cure. Right? But that's the whole point. It means food, bread or grain. That's what grain, right? Because you know, it means what? Meat. He said, the bread is meat. You know how they say? I'm gonna go get some meat from aisle 3. Because you know, akla is meat too. That's food. If my food is bread. Bread, food. Every time when we talk about pretending, we always saw bread present, lakam. Right? Show bread. You know, that's a daily thing. They gotta be hot every day. That's my food. Right? So that word for loathsome is daweh. Daweh. He said this food is loathsome. It's daweh. Daweh. Right? The dalaf, the woo, in the yad. It means loathing, loathsome, sorrowful. He was what? A man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. That's what he was. Daweh. Yahushua was Daweh. You know how they say Daweh, right? But he was Daweh. He was a Daweh. And guess what it means? Dalaf is 4, the woo is 6, and the yad is 10, which equals to what? That's 16. I mean, that's 20. It was a 2. Daweh. How many times Yahushua cried out? How many houses are there? Oh, he said, man, it's heavy. You ever try to carry 2 houses on 2 arms? That's a heavy thing. Like you see pictures of men holding two women on two arms, right? And they be on his shoulders. But usually that person gonna be a little bit bigger, right? But at the same time, this is Psalms 139:11. If I say, surely darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, and it says, even the darkness is not dark to you, the night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. For you formed my inward parts. So you think Yahuwah formed the inward part. He outside, and then you think he don't know our inward parts? He know what we thinking in our heart. He already know what we got heavy. We know we heavy and we burdensome. He know we got it all in our heart. It says, you knitted me together in my mother's womb. He said, you did that. Because that's the only way you're going to understand it, because you can't get rid of the feminine nature of Yahuwah. Why would you do that? Why would somebody desire women with women or men with men? You're literally getting rid of all of this. You can't do that. And it says right here, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. How you going to be fearfully and wonderfully made? Even naturally, you know that, without a female and a male coming together. So how do you think Yahuwah made you fearfully and wonderfully made without having Yahuwah at the end joined to a feminine? How are you going to be fearfully and wonderfully made from him? You can't even say this verse. Right? And it says right here, are your works. My soul knows it very well. He said, my soul knows it very well. That's the reason why people don't understand it, because they don't know it. And it says, verse 15, my frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. What's intricately woven in the depths of the earth? When you plant a seed in the ground, it literally sprouts out little weaving things and weaves itself in the soil, and then it springs up. Because the earth is feminine, and you sow the seed and it sprouts up, and it's a feminine nature, from a feminine nature, and it creates a child. And it says, verse 16, you saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, it says, in your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. Right? He already knew. Already know how long you're going to last. And it says right here, verse 17, how precious to me are your thoughts. That word for thoughts is rare. Yahuwah, how vast is the sum of them? Who can number the sand of the sea? You see all the different colors of the sand of the sea? You got black, red, peach, white. Right? You got copper. Who can number the sand of the sea? How vast are them? If I would count them, they would be more than the sand of the sea. It'd be more than the sand. And amazingly, you see Abyd talking about, man, if I counted all my vexation, man, it'd be heavier than the sand of the sea. And it says, I awake and I am still with you. He said, I woke up, right? It says, how precious are your thoughts? That word for thoughts is rare. It means what? Purpose. He said, how precious are your purpose, your aim, your thoughts? He said, how precious is it? Right? So he said, who can count the sum of them? That word for sum is Rosh or Roshan. It means who can count the Rosh, the head, the top, the summit, the chief of them, the beginning of it. Can you even do that? He said, who can do that? Right? So this book of Hosea, chapter 1, verse 10 through 11. Yet the number of the children of Yasharal shall be like the sand of the sea. Huh? You saw the different colors of the sand of the sea. So how can one people say, oh yeah, you know, the sand of the sea is just one color? The sand of the sea got multiple colors. The sand of the sea got a lot of different colors. The children of Yasharal is like the sands of the sea. You see the type of sands? We got black sand, peach sand, peach white sand. We got copper sand. We got red sand. He said the children of Yasharal like the sand of the sea. And yo, what it says, which cannot be measured or numbered. He compares it to his thoughts and the sum of his thoughts. That's how he compares the children of Yasharal to the sum of Yahuwah's thoughts. And amazingly, Yahusha, when he bore our sin, he bore it, he was heavier than the sand of the sea. That's why. He had to be heavier than the sand of the sea. Because that's the only way he's going to redeem it. And amazingly, and it says right here, and in its place where it was said to them, you are my people, you are not my people, it shall be said to them, children of the living Elohim. He said, you to his children. And guess what? His children are like the measure of the sand of the sea. You know how many children Yahuwah got? Yahuwah got a lot of children. And guess what it says? And the children of Yehuda and the children of Yasharal shall be gathered together, and they shall appoint for themselves one head. Who do you think that head was? Who do you think that head is? You know, people say, you're like Absalom. You're trying to rise and be the king. You're like Saul. There's only one head, one king. There's only one Rosh. There's only one Rosh. And he says, and they shall go up from the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel, right? He says he's going to do all that, right? So that word for measured is madad. He said the children of Yasharal is like cannot be measured. Madad, it means to stretch, to measure. It can't even be measured. Madad. And then it also says that word for after measure, number, he said a measure or a number. That word for numbered is safar. It's safar. It means to count, to rehearse. Isn't that what we're getting ready to do? To do a rehearse? To be recounted, properly to score. To recount, that is celebrate. Aren't we getting ready to celebrate something? We're getting ready to celebrate. To recount, relate, numbers. You say, what? Why? You can't celebrate when you're heavy. Like the sand of the sea. You can't celebrate when you how you say grieving with vexation. You can't celebrate. You can't dance you can't cook God. You can't dance in the circle. You can't do none of that. You can't even move like that. And he said we move different. He said you'll be moving different. Your mindset will be different. Right? Yeshayahu 55, 6-9. Seek Yahuwah while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. When does the sun come closer? He would say, I want to grow. When does the sun come near? Even when he naturally with the sun comes near now. And everything gets productivity. And it says, let the wicked forsake his way, the rock. That's all the weights and the heaviness that's on people. That Ehud said, my vexation is heavy. It'd be heavier than the sand of the sea. Let the wicked forsake the rock, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return. He said, let him return to Yahuwah, that he may have compassion on him, and to our Elohim, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts. He said, the way you thinking, you can't even count the sum of his thoughts. So how are you people saying, I know everything, I know about Yahuwah? And he said, my thoughts are not even your thoughts. Neither my ways your ways. He said, I don't even have your ways. He said, I don't even think like you. And then he says, declares Yahuwah, for as the Shamaim are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours. And my thoughts are higher than your Mukashaba. Like I look at my thoughts and I say, man, I know some things, but he say, no, my thoughts are higher than you. I'm the higher official. He said, I'm the higher official. He said, be ready to hear it and give a sacrifice of food for you who will have no. He says, hear the song of a fool or somebody who don't know nothing. It's better to hear the rebuke of the wise. Why? It's better to hear that. He said, I'd rather shema that, right? So that word for my thoughts are, he said, my ways, neither my ways, your ways, my ways. That word for ways is the rock. He said, my way, my road is not your road. My road is different. My way is different. My way is higher than your way. My road is higher than your road. My distance is higher than your distance. My journey is higher than your journey where you think you're going. My manner of life is higher than your manner of life. My habits are higher than your habits. My course of life is higher than your life. And it says by conversation. His conversation is higher than your conversation. Your customs that you do, we get ready to do, he said, my custom is higher than your custom. What I do, my ways is higher than that. Right? All of that, right? So this book right here, it says, let the wicked forsake his way, is let him return. That word for return is shu. To return, it means to what? Turn back. He said, you know why? Because does a donkey leave food and an ox leave his father? So do they just walk away from their own food? Only reason they do it because they're heavy. And you know what he said? He said, turn back around. And then he says, turn back, return, come to spiritual relations. Ruach relations, right? To relinquish, to restore, to give payment. And that's why people don't want to come back. They be like, man, I owe a whole bunch. He's like, man, I ain't give payment. He said, I got to pay. He said, return, give payment to bring back, to refresh. He said, I got to give it back. He's like, yeah, return it back. Give payment. He said, if a man get caught stealing, he said, man, you got to return it sevenfold. Chubathim. He's like, you got to return. He's like, hold up. I got to give him money. And we ain't talking about currency. We're talking about your life. To recover, to refresh. That's what it means. Shu. Right? He just said, for as the Shamayim is higher than the earth. So he said, the word for higher is gabah. It means to high. To be high, to be exalted. To be haughty. Of course, it means to be haughty and lofty, but gabah. But it also means to soar. To soar. He says, for as the Shamayim are higher than the earth, it's soaring higher than you. Right? That word for gabah is gamo, ba'ith, and ha equals to gamo is 3, ba'ith is 2, and ha is 5. Which equals to 10, which equals to 1. He said, the only way you're going to go higher, with Yahuwah, you got to be 1. A Qad. He was saying, how you going to be a Qad? And how you going to go higher with Yahuwah and the man in the Isha or the man in his wife, his household ain't 1. He said, the 2 shall become 1. But how you going to go higher? I want to go higher. But I'm going to go higher. I want to go higher. But you can't be a Qad. You can't be a Qad in the beginning. He said, I want to go higher. But then I want to increase. He said, I guess we tired. He said, you tired of losing yet? He said, you got to be a Qad. And then you got to say, how you going to do that? Just like in the beginning, on the first day of creation, he said what? Let there be light. He said, I want more light on the inside of me. He said, you got to be a Qad. So either you go higher than Yahuwah, or you just be this right here. That word for higher is haughty. Or you will exalt yourself. Or you exalted. Or you will be arrogant. Right? That's what's going to happen. Right, so this is Yeshayahu 10, 20 through 21. In the day, the remnant of Yasharal and the survivors of the house of Yaakov will no more lean on him who struck them. But he said, but will lean on Yahuwah. So they lean on the people who destroyed them more than they lean on Yahuwah. And it said, the Qahalath one of Yasharal in truth. He said, you're going to lean on Yahuwah, the Qahalath one of Yasharal in truth. But it says, a remnant will return. So you mean that the Yasharal like the sand of the sea. But only a remnant of that black, peach white, red, and copper sand going to return. He said, that's it. For though the people of Yasharal be as the sand or cool of the sea, and the Yam, only a remnant of them will return. Everybody not going to return. Some people may start out like they're returning, get immersed, and then start out like they're returning, but then he said you won't return all the way. It's just like circumcision. We talked about last year, how they won't cut, or 2 years ago, how they cut the circumcision, but they won't cut it all the way through. They won't circumcise their heart all the way through. The same thing with a woman, when they circumcise her heart all the way through, they keep some of it. Same thing with a man, you won't circumcise your heart all the way through. He said only a remnant going to return. Right? This is the book of Psalms, Talim 49, 1-4. Hear this, all ye peoples, give ear, all the inhabitants of the world. Both low, that's Adam, and high, Ish, rich and poor together, Ashir Abiyun. Together, my mouth shall speak of Hukmah, and the meditation of my heart shall be of understanding. He said, the meditation. And I will incline my ear to a parable, and I will open my dark sayings upon the harp. He said, upon the harp. That word for harp is kidah. I'm going to open the heart, dark sayings upon the kidah. That means a riddle. Right? That word for dark is kidah. It means what? The dark saying is kidah, and it means riddle. Difficult questions. Parable, double dealings, dark sayings, a trick, a puzzle, a riddle, right? A dark sentence. Right? He said, I'm going to open it on a dark sentence. That word for harp is kinoa. It means a lyre, a harp. He said, I'm going to open my dark sayings on a lyre and a harp. He said, have you ever played a harp before? You ever played a cello? You ever played the string instruments? Right? All that's a part of the transformation. Like we look at all the things that's happening, right? In the twang. It says the harp, the twang, the kinoa. Right? So you look at the kinoa, it has the kaf, which is 20. We can look this over again, but it says the kaf is 20, the noon is 50, the woo is 6, and the rosh is 200, which equals to 276. Yeah, 276. Which equals to 15, which equals to 6. Joined, tent peg, nail. He said, joined, tent peg, nail. So in order for you to get to, he said, the darkness and open up your thought process, you have to be joined to a harp. A stringed instrument. Right? This is all, we're saying this all for a reason, right? We're building to something. We're building to something. You got to do it with a stringed instrument. Why? Because this is all a part of your joy. This is all a part of your singing. You know that thing that people refuse to do? And some people used to do it, but they don't want to do it anymore. But it says right here, that word for quinoa is kaf, which means palm, leaf, productivity, fruitfulness, teaching, reproducing. When does that take place? In the summertime. You know, summers, you know, people sing this. You know, I guess, you know, he said you got the wrong music playing. But it said right here, noon. And it says what? Life, resprout, potentiality. When does that take place? In the summertime. And then it says what? Woo. That's woo for the word. It means joined, secure, tent peg. You got to be joined to a balance of life. How you going to get balance in your life? And then it says Raj, chief, head, beginning of mind. Beginning, mind, knowledge. How you expect to increase? Right, this is just like the sun travel on the 7 celestial circles, and then it creates this world for you to live in, right? So that word for twang, you look at twang, is a strong ringing sound such as that's made by the plucked strings of a musical instrument or released bowstring. A bowstring, right? People say, I never played a bowstring before. It just can't be just a harp. It could be a cello, it could be a solo, it could be an acoustic guitar, it can be a 10-string guitar if you played one before, a 12-string. Right, they have those as well. A 10-string guitar. Right, all this is a part of a human being, right? So This is Bereshit 1:26-31. And then Yahuwah Elohim said, let us make Adam in our image and likeness, our Demuth and Salim, and let them have dominion over Adar, over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the Sharmaim, over the livestock, and over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So Yahuwah Elohim created Adam in his own image. In the image of Yahuwah, he created him, male, Zakar, and female, Nakubah. Right? So we know Yahuwah made people in his image, made us in his image. You think he made us in his image to be heavy and weight with vexation? You think that's what he made you for? That comes from, how you say, doing evil. You know, like Cain, you had the power over evil inclination, but you gave into it. Right, so this is the book, so this is what it said. Then Yahuwah Elohim said, let us make Adam. That word for man is Adam. It's a human being, ruddy. Ruddy, the first man. People say, I don't want to be first. I guess you ain't trying to win. Right? But then you also have what? The second Adam. But guess what? The last going to be first, though. Isn't that amazing, right? The last Adam going to be first. The second Adam going to be first. But it says right here, and it says mankind, ruddy, human being. So you look at Adam, you got Aleph, his strength to lead 1,000 beginning, conception, seed planting. So you know the sun is getting stronger and stronger. You got the Daleth, which is door, entranceway, gateway, tent door, passageway. Isn't that what you putting on the blood? Isn't that what you putting on the door during Pesach? Not literally, right? Unless you got a good pressure washer. After it's over. But then you have Mem, you got water above and below, firmament, fountain, river, oil. What we get first and latter rain, don't we? During this time too. So you look at Adam, because you add it up. Well, Aleph is 1, Daleth is 4, and the Mem is 40, which gives the 1 plus 4 plus 40 equals to 45, which equals to 9. And then what happens? You look at the word Dam, because that's the Daleth and the Mem, that's blood. It means blood. Dam means blood. And what does blood do? Right, notice you got water in it, and blood. And then it has strength too. Strength in the blood. But actually it's strength in the door, the door and the water. Strength on the door, and it says what? Strength of water. Adam. But it also means entranceway, to lead 1,000. Strength to lead. But also it means what? The strength of the blood. So that's what it means. Strength in the blood. Because it's strength in the blood. Right, so look at Bereshit 2, 5-7. And when no bush was in the field, when no bush of the field was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung up. When does it spring up? When the sun comes. When the water comes, when the sun comes, for Yahuwah Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the land, because there ain't no water yet. Like spring rain. We looking for spring rain right now, right? That's what we're looking for. And there was no man to work the ground. There was nobody to do anything. Everybody lazy. There was no Adam to lay the ground. He said, wasn't nobody there. And a mist was going up from the land and was watering the whole face of the ground. That's the dew. You know, like that fog you see in them, if you wake up early enough. Some people still be asleep. He said in the 4 walls. But yeah, it's a mist. It's the fog that come on the ground. And get what it says. Then Yahuwah Elohim formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and Adam became a living creature. He became a living nefash, a living soul. Right, so you look at, then Yahuwah Elohim formed man from the dust of the ground. That word for the ground is Adama. He formed him from what? The ground, the land, the tilled land. Redness. Just how you saw that redness of the sand of the sea. You know, the sand that can't be numbered. He said just like the redness in the sand of the sea. It's just like the red sand, red dirt. And he said right here, so you got the word for dominion, and he said let them create in the image and likeness, let them have dominion, right? So you know that word for dominion, You know, he said, let us make Adam in our own image and likeness, and let them have dominion. That word for dominion is radah. He said, why did you do that? Because you just went from being created in his image and likeness, both male and female, right? You find yourself Adam with strength in the blood. Then you see him made from the Adama, the redness of the ground. He gave him living nefash, and then it says, let them have dominion. To do what? To dominate, to rule, to dominate, to subjugate, to rule, to reign. So that's the reason why Yahuwah made you, both male and female, to rule, to reign. So people say, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want people looking at me. I don't want people following me. I don't want people doing what I do. And he said, why not? He said, are you ashamed? But also means to subjugate, to bring under dominion or control, especially conquest. That's what subjugate means. That's why you gotta, in your patience, possess your soul, your nefash, because you gotta dominate it, you gotta control it. And then it says dominate, having command or influence to exercise control over. This is the same thing we read. That's the 9th fruit of the Ruach, self-control. Because you can't have self-control without gentleness, which is the 8th. Because being that one is heavy and full of grief, I'm heavy, I'm full of grief and vexation. It's more than the sand of the sea. But you know what? He said, you won't cast your cares away. For Yahusha cares for you. He said, you can cast your cares away today. For today is the day of salvation. He said, you can do that. You can cast your cares away today and empty your mind. And guess what? Yahusha cares for you. And he said, cast your cares away and all your weights. For I bore your weights. I hung and I gave you weights. I took it away. Why lose your self-control? Because of the weights you carry. Because you know what happens when you have too much heavy? You ever try to carry 300 pounds on your back? Can you imagine putting it on your back? Or say a woman putting the heaviest weight on your back and walking down the street. What's going to happen to your legs? Ain't no joy in that. You're like, man, that's joy. Look at all this weight I'm carrying down the street, down the road. See, Yahuwah don't think like you. He said, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways. He ain't carrying the weight all the way down the road. I'm going to carry the weight all the way down the road. That's crazy. He said, throw that weight off. You ain't going to go very far. People say, why people? He said, why, how you know people got a lot of weights? Because they get into a marriage and they jump out 40 days after, a day after, or they jump out of a relationship, or they jump out of a deal, or jump out of a covenant, jump out of things they say they won't say. That's how you know they got weights. They say they're gonna do something, then they don't. That's how you know people got weights. That's how you know. That's how Yahuwah know. He's like, yo, you got weights. That's the only way you can't fulfill what you said. Because you got weights. He said, that's the only reason you won't do it, because you got weights. And people say, why? He said, you sure taking a long time to get down this road. He said, yeah, because I got weights. Something's weighing me down in my mind. But he says right here, this is Bereshit chapter 1, 28 to 31. And Yahuwah Elohim baraked them, and Yahuwah Elohim said, we went over this, but I'm going to skip over real fast. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, right? So let's skip to 29. And Yahuwah Elohim said, behold, I have given every plant yielding seed, this is important right here, that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, you shall have them for food. He said, you should have them. He said, you should have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the Shamayim, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food in Akla. And it was so. And Yahuwah Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Mayo tell. And there was evening and there was morning, 6th day. How you mean kafar? You know that's the 6th feast. Right, so that word for plant is Chdsh. But we know Chdsh, that word for plants is Shab. You use an iron, but you got to see it. Because they got an iron in it. Shab. Because it's gonna make you glisten. It's gonna glisten. Herbage, plants, green tree, to glisten. Right? Because if you look at that word near, that means to glisten. The same thing as a shell. It means to glisten, right? It's for your iron, your 7 eyes. He said, why? That's why we eating it. He said, why you eating the plants and the vegetables? For my eyes. So I can see properly. So I can see properly, because if you ain't got it, you ain't gonna be able to see. He said, why did Mashah, they talk about Mashah, his countenance did not fade when he was leaving here. His countenance wasn't abated. Right, so you look at that word Asheb, you got Ayin, Shun, and Ba'ith. Ayin is 70, Shun is 300, and Ba'ith is 2. And amazingly, you got 3 what? 317 was a 12. And amazingly, see, devour the plants and the green herbs, consume them, watch, experience with your eyes. And guess what? In your house, in your palace, your temple, right? All this is a part of Pesach. All this is a part of Pesach. And you're going to have to watch. You're going to have to see. You're going to have to see in the dark, like we talked about yesterday. You're going to have to see. Your eyes going to need to be open. It's all a part of Pesach. Right? This is right here. So that word for food is akla. It means food, eating. You got to eat it for food, devouring. Aren't you going to eat that for food? For Pesach. That's what you're going to eat. Food, eating, consume. It's going to be your meat. That's going to be your meat. You know how people say, that's going to be your meat. The plant's going to be your meat. Just like the lakam was the meat, the bread that Eliel was throwing away because he was so heavy. He was so burdensome. That's why he couldn't eat it. He said, why people can't eat the debar? Because you know, Yahusha said, you are your father Satan. He said, the only reason, he said, why doesn't my word have any place in you? Because you casting it away. Because you got weights on you. And people say, why Yahusha had to take away our weights and our sin? Why he had to remove the weights and the heavy things, the burdens and the vexation for us? Why do you think he had to be a man of sorrows? Why do you think Yahuwah put it on him? He had to put it on him. Because the bar had no place in you. So therefore, he said, you are your father Satan. Because you ain't got no room for him. Because you got weights. You know, you're carrying that stuff down the road. Like you carrying it down your Duroc. You know, my way. You carrying them weights in my way, and you need to throw them weights off. You need to throw that grief off, that vexation, those mistakes you made. You got to stop thinking about your mistakes. Right? You got to stop thinking about your mistakes, because your mistakes ain't going to allow you to get to the next thing in your life. He said, man, I don't keep thinking about is my mistakes. He said, okay, you keep thinking about your mistakes, then guess what happens next? Then when the next thing comes, you're going to make another mistake, because you're thinking about the old mistake, and you're not focused on the next. Right? That's what people do. They think about Pesach, last year, the year after, the year after. They think about all the years after, but then you start to think about it, and you're like, that's all weights. If you made a mistake, did you make a mistake and did you do it with all your whole heart? Like we have a thing in sports that say you make a mistake, make it full speed. Or did you do it timid? Did you plan it out? Was it planned? Right, so that word for every plant yielding, that word for yielding is zarah. It says what? To sow, to scatter seed. That's what you're going to do right now. Amazingly, I looked outside, I guarantee you, it was like maybe yesterday. I was watching the animals. Because that's when you can learn a lot from the animals. So I literally watched an animal, or a squirrel, take a seed and literally bury it in the soil. Yesterday. He says, scatter seed, producing, fruitified, conceive seed. Even though I gotta take his seed out of the soil, so I gotta plant some, but at the same time, that's what it did. To sow seed, zara, right? Right. That word for seed, it says yielding seed is zara. To sow, disseminate, it's twice. And amazingly, zara, right, has a what at the end of it? An iron. It has an iron. Zara. And guess what it means? It means zara is what? It has an iron. And amazingly, the zan equals to what? What's the 7-letter alphabet? The zan is 7. The rosh is what? 200. And the iron is 70. And it equals to 277. And it equals to 16. You add 7 plus 7 is 2. And it equals to 7. How many eyes? He said, I saw a stone with 7 eyes. And amazingly, when you saw the blossom of the almonds, what did it look like again? Like the eyes, 7 eyes. They're seeds. He said, why do you need to plant seeds in the 7 eyes, in the 7 periods, in the pasach, in the 7 cogs? Because it's going to allow it's scattering seed. You got to start scattering seeds. That's what you're supposed to do. Because you're supposed to see a field of golden wheat. But you give his handful of seeds to a fool, all he sees is, man, look at all that work I got. All he sees is pain. All he sees is, man, look at that. And you know why? Because they got weights. Because they got weights and they got heavy weights on their back. That's why they don't want to scatter no seed. That's why they don't want to do anything. It's because they got seed. They got weights on them. Heavy. Both male and female, they got heavy weights on them. And he said, you the heavyweight champion of the world. Exactly. You got a belt on. It ain't the belt you supposed to be wearing there for sock. You got the belt. You got that belt with the weight, with the 45-pound weight trying to do stuff and walk down the street between your legs. You know, they have that strap the belt on and they put the chain on it. He said, man, your feet chained with pain and suffering. Because it's stained with hatred. That's why. And it says right here, but that's how it works. It says in the fruit, every seed, every fruit tree yielding fruit, that word for fruit is pari. It means fruit, produce. Offspring, produce. Boughs, it's going to produce something. And amazingly, all this takes place in what? It's a fruit tree in the summertime. When the sun comes. Traveling on the 7 celestial circles. Fruitful. He said, I don't want to sow no seed. That's why people don't understanding don't increase. I don't want to grow nothing. That's why your understanding don't increase. I don't want to sow seed. That's why your understanding don't increase. I don't want to bear fruit. That's why Yahuwah is never satisfied. You never have anything to offer. I don't want to do anything. Both naturally and ruach. He said, okay. Because he said, these words I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life. So Yahushua is sowing seeds by speaking by the ruach. And then you can do that also naturally by going and planting and harvesting fruits and vegetables and grains and things for food. But he said, Barak is he who finds so doing, because you got to watch your gun after you sow it. He said, I don't want to be a watchman. They say you don't want to watch because your eyes are closed. Because your esheb, you ain't eating your esheb, your iron. And you know why you ain't eating your esheb? Because you ain't planting none. And you know why you ain't got no, no zara? You ain't got no seed because you ain't planting nothing. So therefore your eyes are closed. Your 7 eyes are always closed. He said, how long are you going to lie there? you see the ant, remember the ant? He's wise, that ant is so wise. Right? How long you gonna sit there? And it says right here, that word for green is yarak. Yarak. It's not yarak like the base of a manure. It's spelled with a different word, but yarak is spelled with a kuf at the end. It means what? Green, greenness. Right? I have given every green plant for food, right? So that plant, that word for green is yarak. It means green, greenness, plants, sickly vegetation. So he's talking about to the animals, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird, the shamayim, to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has a breath of life, giving every green plant for food. You know that yellow stuff that you don't be wanting to eat? You know that food that you don't be wanting you eat and you still got leftovers? Things that, if you do eat these things, he said, Yahuwah got things that eat that. Just like he got buzzards to eat dead bodies and dead things. He got things that eat that. But all this is a part of it, right? So we're going to 2nd Ezra chapter 8, verse 1. He gave every plant you see for food for men, right? So this 2nd Ezra chapter 8, verse 1. And he answered me, saying, the Most High Yahuwah have made this world for many, but the world to come for few. Why? Because only a remnant going to return. He said, are you a part of the remnant that's going to return? That's the world to come. Everybody not going to get. Are you a part of that? And it says, and I will tell thee a similitude, Ezra, at Azarun, as when thou askest the earth, it shall say unto thee. Ask the earth, that it giveth much mound thereof, whereof earthen vessels are made. But little dust that gold cometh of, even so it is the course of this present world. He said, little gold, little dust that gold cometh from, right? He says, there are many created, but few will be saved. There's only a few going to come out as gold. There's only a few. So answered I and said, swallow then down, O my soul, understanding and devour wisdom. Why would he say that? He says, swallow down, O my soul, and devour wisdom. Why? Because he ain't got no heavy weights on him. He's talking to his nefesh, because you got to become a living soul like Adam. And when Adam became a living soul, he had to devour, he had to literally eat. He said, please, soul, receive this understanding. Swallow it. You mean the shun? That's the 21st letter of the alphabet, to devour, consume. But if you got weights, you're going to loathe it away. You're not going to eat it. And he says right here, for thou hast agreed to give ear and are willing to nabba, for thou hast no longer space than only to live. Yahuwah, if thou suffer not thy servant, that we may pray before thee, and thou givest us seed unto our heart, To give us seed, he's scattering seed. What do you mean seed in our heart? We just talked about it. Scattering seed. If you don't get seed in our heart and culture to our understanding, and culture to our understanding, that there may come fruit of it. Where do you see this at? Fruit of it. And guess what? How shall each man live that is corrupt, who breathe the place of a man? How you gonna do this? No seed, no fruit. If you don't cultivate it, I gotta get my mind right and say, soul, nefesh, receive understanding. Maybe people need to start saying that to themselves. You know how it's how affirmations. Because your soul, he said, you stopping yourself. You are. And it says, verse 7 says, for thou art alone, and we all one workmanship of thine hands, like as thou hast said. For when the body is fashioned now in its mother's womb, you can't understand. If you can't understand both masculine and feminine, there's no way you can understand the rest of this Torah. There's no way you can do it. It don't matter. If you try to get rid of the woo joint to the feminine form, it says, for when the body is fashioned now in its mother's womb, and thou givest it members, thy creature is preserved in fire and water, and 9 months doth thy workmanship endure, thy creature which is created in her. It endures all that fire and water that come in when in his birthing process. What do you think fire and rain and snow and fire is for? He said, what do you think fire is for? Isn't that my debar like fire? Isn't my debar like rain and snow? So if you can endure it, you will be born again. But he says, so receive understanding. But guess what it says? And guess what it says? Verse 10, for thou hast commanded out of the parts of the body, that is to say, out of the breast, milk to be given. Seeing then that you purify your souls in obedience to the truth. Desire the sincere milk of the word that you may grow thereby. And guess what it says? Which is the fruit of the breast. You can't understand it. You need the feminine form. You need it. Or you're going to have men with men. That's not going to be good. Yahuwah ain't formed. You said, out of man, he formed a man. Out of his rib. What that say? He ain't put that out his Selah. Man, if a man need a Selah, he gonna need a feminine Selah to put some seed on top of that hill and those bridges. That's the only way you're gonna get it. Verse 11, that the thing which is fashioned may be nourished for a time, till thou disposest it to thy mercy. Thou broughtest it up with thy righteousness, and nourished it in thy law, and reformest it with thy judgment. That's how you're going to nourish you. With the Torah and with this judgment. He said, he holds judgments in the midst of the Elohims, the gods. For Yahuwah holds judgment in his people first. And if it first begin at us, what shall be the end of those who don't obey the truth? Right, so this is 2 Ezra chapter 8, 13 through 23. He says, and thou shalt notify it as thy creature, and quicken it as thy work. If therefore thou shouldest destroy him with which so great labor was fashioned, Yahuwah did all this work. It's like Shaul say, means I hope I ain't laboring in vain. I hope I ain't do all this for nothing. It is an easy thing to be ordained by thy commandment, that the thing which was made might be preserved. Verse 15, now therefore, Yahuwah, I will speak, touching man in general. Thou knowest best by touching thy people, for whose sake I am sorry. He said, and for thine inheritance, for those cause I mourn, and for Yasharal. Why? For whom I am heavy. Here we go. We just talked about it. He was saying he's heavy. Vexing. He's vexing. He's heavy. And then he says, and for Yaakov, for whose sake I am troubled. I am vexed. He said, I'm heavy. You get what it says? And you get what it says? Therefore I will begin to pray before thee for myself and for them. For I see the falls of us that dwell in the land. We losing. He's like, we're losing. You know, people say, I like losing. I like being heavy. I like being vexed. He said, that's why people continue to do what they do. Verse 18, but I have heard the swiftness of the judge which is to come. He said, I already heard it. And go what he said. Therefore, hear my voice and understand my words, and I shall speak before thee. This is the beginning of the words of Ezra, before he was taken up. And I said, Yahuwah, thou that dwellest in the everlastingness, which beholdest from above all things, above things in the Shamaim in the air, whose throne is he said inestimable, right? Whose kabod may not be comprehended. You know why? Because the sum of his thoughts are infinite. Who can number it? It's like the sand of the sea. His thoughts are higher than your thoughts. His makashba, his darak is way higher than your darak. before whom the host of the Malachim stand with trembling. He said the Malachim are super beings, tremble. And you think clay people made of dust don't even fear Yahuwah, but the Malachim, who's super beings, in the highest Shamayim, they tremble at his debar. And amazingly, they tremble. And Yahuwah looking for somebody on the earth who trembles at his debar. He said, to whom will I look? Those who are of a poor and contrite heart, who depressed, who is down in his mind, who is what? Low, humble. Why do you think he's like this right now? Why do you think Abyd was in that state? Why do you think Yahushua was in that state? Because he was that man. He was a man acquainted with sorrows and grief. He was heavy with the burdens of the people. And guess what happened? Yahuwah looked to him to build a house. He looked to him to help construct a great house, like Shalom said, with 150,000 people, 150,000 and 3,600 on top. And get what it says, 22. Whose service is the conversant in the wind and fire, whose word is true and saying constant, and sayings constant. He said his sayings are constant, whose commandment is strong and ordinances fearful. Whose look drieth up the, whose look, like he can look at you and dries up the depths. That's how, you know why his look dries up the depths? Because his eyes are like flaming torches. His eyes are like flaming torches. It says, and indignation make the mountains melt away. His eyes are like flaming torches. It's like fire, which the truth witnessed. Yahushua said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He said, bring it back to how it was in the beginning in Yucatan 17, as it was before the world even was, before the universe. And guess what Yahushua said? He said, man, his eyes melt mountains. His indignation dries up depths, which the truth witnessed. Just like Proverbs chapter 8 says. He said he was there. I was there like one brought up with him before the earth even was. Right? Verse continues. It says, oh, hear my prayer for thy servant and give ear to the petition of thy creature. For while I live, I will speak. And as long as I have understanding, I will answer. You know how he had understanding? He said, soul, Nephash, receive understanding and wisdom. He gave himself an affirmation. And guess what happens? Oh, look not upon the sins of thy people, but on them that serve thee in truth. He said, don't even look at them. You look at those who serve you in a month. Don't look at the kata'ah, the people. Look at the boy who's serving you in truth. Regard not the wicked inventions of the heathen, but the desires of those who keep the testimonies and afflictions. Isn't that what we getting ready to do? Pesach is called the bread of affliction, right? And guess what happens? Think not upon those that have walked vainly before you who pretending. Like we talk about pretending. He's like, them people be pretending. He said, don't even think on these people. But remember them which do according to thy will and have known thy fear. He said, he did according to your will. Guess what it says? Let it not be thy will to destroy them. Oh, here we go. The destroyer. That's what we're approaching. Let it not be thy will to destroy them, which have lived like beasts. He said, you live like a beast. And amazingly, Mizraim, what died during the Mizraim? And get what it says, but to look upon them that have clearly taught thy Torah. He said, look to them. And get what it says. Take thou no indignation at them which are deemed worse than beasts, but love them that always put their trust in thy righteousness and kabod. For we and our fathers do language of such diseases. Diseases? Why? Because we done broke out. But because of us sinners, that thou shalt be called merciful. Yahuwah said, he said, we languish He said, we in our father's language of such diseases, right? Verse 32, for if thou hast desired to have mercy upon us, thou shalt be called merciful. You get what it says? To us, namely, and have no works of righteousness. For the just which have been made, for the just which have many good works laid up with thee, shall out of their own deeds receive reward. Right? Verse 34. For what is man that thou shouldest take displeasure at him? Or what is a corruptible generation that thou shouldest be so bitter toward it? He say bitter. And we supposed to eat it with bitter herbs too? He said, but he said your iron, you got to seed it. You got to be like seeds, like Zerah, like Isheb, iron. It says, verse 35, for in truth, them is in no man among them that is born, but he that hath dealt wickedly. And among the faithful there is none which have not done amiss. For in this Yahuwah thy righteousness and thy goodness shall be declared. If thou be merciful unto them which have not confidence in thy good works. He said, be merciful to those who don't have confidence in good works. Then he answered me and said, some things hast thou spoken right. All right. He's like, man, I've been very rash. You know how Abyd said? I was very rash with what I said. He said, you spoken some things all right. And according unto thy words it shall be. For indeed I will not think on the disposition of them which have sinned before death, before judgment, before destruction. And people say, why you need Yahushua to intercede for you? He said, we have an advocate with Yahuwah that intercedes for us. People say, I don't need nobody. Yes, you do. He said, I don't want that. But you better say to your soul, Nafash, receive understanding. Right? Skipping over, it says, verse 39, but I will rejoice over the disposition of the righteous. It says, and I will remember all their pilgrimage and the salvation and the reward that they shall have. Like as I have spoken now, so shall it come to pass. For as the husbandman soweth much seed upon the ground, we just talked about in Bereshit, Zerah, throwing seed, and planted many trees. How many trees you planted in your life? And yet the thing that is sown good in its season cometh not up. Neither doth all that is planted take up root. Even so it is of them that are sown in the world, they shall not all be saved. He said you can scatter seed everywhere. If Yahuwah don't allow anything to come up, people say, why people attention span only a certain period of time? Because even Yahushua said, he said, my word have no place in you. Yahuwah said, do not I feel Shamayim in earth? He said, I want to be inside of you. But he said, I'm only looking to the person who poor and contrite in Ruach. He said, I ain't poor and contrite in my heart. Guess what? He said, what I say, he said, it has no place in you. He said, I answered then and said, if I have found Khan, let me speak. As a husbandman's seed perishes, if it come not up and receive not the rain in due season, that's the only reason. Or if there come much rain and corrupt it, right? So he said, what? He said, much rain. He said, that's a flood. You ever seen a flood before? I think we did. We saw a flood. Because that's what a flood does. You know, a flood picks up other soil from other places and brings it in, and then it leaves it there. And then guess what? And then that's what Satan do. He like a flood. He comes in, he brings in soil and dirt and mirror, he leaves it on top of your good soil, and he just corrupts it. That's what he does with the flood. And it becomes toxic soil. That's what Satan do. That's why he comes from the left and the right. They're like, he'd be like, man, this happened. That happened. This person doing this. That thing happened. This happened. Because Satan. He want to corrupt. what's going on. That's what he does. Verse 44, even so perishes man also, that is formed from without hand, and it calleth and is called thine own image. He said, you be careful when you speak against the image and likeness of Yahuwah. It's like Seth, when the animal came to attack his mother, and he tried to attack Seth. Seth said, you going to attack the image and likeness of Yahuwah? And that animal drew back and went back to his lair. Because thou art like unto him, for whose sake thou hast made all things, and likened him unto the husbandman's seed. That's why you can't get rid of masculine and feminine. It's like the seed. It's like a male seed that comes out and sows inside of a woman. Verse 45, be not wroth with us, but spare thy people, and have mercy upon thine own inheritance, for thou art merciful unto thy creature. Right? Then answered he me and said, things present are for the present, and things to come for such as to come. For thou comest far short, that thou shouldst be able to love my creature more than I. You can't. He said, "How you know how I say? There's no way I can love a woman more than Yahuwah love you. There's no way you can love a brother more than Yahuwah love that person. There's no way you can love Yahuwah's creatures and his animal more than he loves them." He said, "You can't love him more than I." They had this song called "More Than I" they used to listen to when I was young. He said, "I know somebody great. I know somebody who loves you more than I do." Right? I know somebody, but I have oftentimes drawn nigh unto thee and unto it, but never to the unrighteous. Verse 48, in this also thou art marvelous before the Most High Yahuwah, in that thou hast humbled thyself. You see that? To this man will I look. And as it becometh thee, thou hast not judged thyself worthy to be much glorified among the righteous. For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter times, that's what we in, shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. So what do you think you're ready? He said, you got pride. He said they got great pride, gadol. Right? It's great. It's like the greater light. They got pride, but they like the greater light. But understand thou for thyself, and seek the kabod of such as be like thee. He said, he said, seek us people like you. Right? Verse 52, for unto you is paradise open, the tree of life is planted. Because he humbled himself. And Yahuwah planted the tree of life in him. He said, why a man don't got a tree of life? Why a woman don't got a tree of life in him? He said, why you don't got it? He said, I went right to the tree of life with no humble, none of that. I have no. And it said right here, the time is come and is prepared. Plenteous is made ready, and a city is builded. The rest is allowed, yea, perfect goodness and wisdom. How you Hukmah? Where is wisdom found? Can you search it out? Verse 53, the root of evil is sealed up from you. Weakness, the moth is hid from you. I thought, it says a sheb, those who eat vegetables are weak in the movement. He said they lack physical strength. But it said weakness and moth is hid from you. Then it says, and corruption is fled into hell to be forgotten. He says to be forgotten. It says sorrows are passed away, People say, why your sorrows ain't passed away? Because you're not humble. It says, and in the end, it showeth the treasures of immortality. He said, this mortal must put on immortality. This corruption must put on incorruption. And guess what it says? Because corruption got to be forgotten. And then it says 55, and therefore ask thou no more questions concerning the multitude of them that perish. He's like, don't ask me no more questions. No. There's a lot of people that are getting ready to perish, right? But he said right here, verse 56, for when they had taken liberty, they had freedom, they despised the Most High Yahuwah. You said, you got a lot of freedom. He said, I got a lot of leisure time. But he said, they despised Yahuwah. Why do you think Yahushua was despised? A man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, vexed, heavy with burdens and sin. It says, they thought scorn of the law, the Torah, and forsook his ways. Moreover, they have trodden down his righteous, and said in their heart that there is no Elohim, and that knowing they must die. For as the thing afore said shall receive you, so thirst and pain are prepared for them. For it was not his will that men should come to naught, but they which be created have defiled the name of him that made them. He said, you took on Yahuwah's name in vain. You know how you make them vows? You swear by his name, and you say something and you put Yahuwah's name on it. He said, you defiled my name. And guess what else they did? And were unthankful unto him which prepared life for them. Yahushua said, I come you might have life and have it more abundantly. He said, always giving thanks to him, giving praise to the Abba through him. He said, you unthankful of eternal life. You unthankful that I gave you life through Yahushua Mashiach and his blood, the strength in the blood. You know what it says? And therefore is my judgment now at hand. People say, what do you think you're right? What do you think? Even though the Pesach, but think about it. These things have I not showed unto all men, but unto thee, and a few like thee. He said, I only show it to a few, because only a remnant going to be saved. Only a few going to return. He said, I ain't showing it to everybody. He said, even if you say it, if the word don't have the bar don't have no place in that individual, guess what? They're going to loathe it. They're going to cast it away. And get what it says. Then answered I and said, behold, Yahuwah, now hast thou showed me the multitude of wonders, which thou wilt begin to do in the last times. But at what time thou hast not showed me? I don't know. No man know the day, no hour. Right? So he says, and he answered me then, right? Skipping over. 2 Ezra chapter 9, verse 1. And he answered me then, and he said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And therefore, when there shall be earthquakes, uproars of the people of the world. You know what you see there? Then thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also the highest have plain beginnings in the wonderful and powerful works, and the endings, the effects of signs. And every one that shall be saved shall be able to escape by his works, and by Amunah, whereby you have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them from the beginning. Then shall they be a pitiful case, which now have abused my ways, and they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torments. You cast away all his stuff that he gave you, all his the bar, his word. You loathed it. And you know why he said they loathed it? Because they got weights. They got vexation. They heavy. And get what it says. For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me, And they that have loathed my Torah, they that have loathed my law, my Torah, while they had liberty, you have freedom through Yahushua Mashiach. And when as yet place of repentance was open unto them, it's still open, understood not, but despised it again, and again, and again, and again. And it's open too. But guess what it says? The same must know it after death by pain. He said, you'll know it then. Right? So, and it says, and therefore, be thou not curious, verse 13, how the unrighteous shall be punished, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved, whose the world is, and from whom the world is created. Then answered I and said, I have said before, and now do speak, and will speak it also hereafter, that there be many more of them which perish than of them which will be saved, like as a wave is greater than a drop. He's saying it's just like a drop. Only a remnant gonna return. A little drop. You see a big old wave? Imagine just a drop hitting you. And people say, I want to play around. You want to be a part of that drop? And it says right here, verse 17, and he answered me, saying, like as the field is, so is the seed. And as the flowers be, such are the colors also. Such are the workmen is. Such also is the work. And as a husbandman is himself, so is his husbandry also. For it was the time of the world. That's how it was in the beginning. And now when I prepare the world, which was not yet made, even of them to dwell in, and now live, no man spake against me. He's like, nobody was saying nothing against me like they do now. He said, when I made everything, it was good and very good, and nobody was doing these things and doing the things they do today. He said, nobody spake against me, not one person. He said, nobody did. No male, female, or child, right? Verse 19. For then everyone obeyed. But now the manners of them which are created in this world that is made are corrupted by a perpetual seed. A continual seed. What type of continual seed? And by a law which is unsearchable rid themselves, right? So I considered the world, and behold, there was perils because of the devices that were come in it. And I saw and spared it greatly. And I have kept me a grape of cluster. So he kept a little remnant. And he said, and a plant of a great people. And amazingly, when they came and spied out the land, Yahusha and Caleb carried a grapevine right in the middle of them. It took two of them to carry. Right? And get what it says, verse 22. And let the multitude perish then. And he said, only people getting in is Caleb and Yahusha. Everybody else, he said, y'all not getting in. He said, let the multitude perish then, because only a drop gonna be saved. And you know what he said? Which was born in vain. He said, all the people were born in vain. And let the grape be kept. Let the grape be kept. He said, what? Yahusha said, I'm the vine, you're the branches. You can do nothing without me. He said, let the grape be kept in my plant. For with great labor have I made it perfect. Yahusha said, be ye therefore perfect in Matthew 5:48, even as your Abyd and Shamaim is perfect. No taboo. Nevertheless, if thou wilt cease yet 7 days more. Oh, what today is? The Shabath? He said, you shall cease 7 days more. He says, but thou shalt not fast in them. So he said, cease 7 days more, but you shouldn't fast though. What we getting ready to come up on? People think Pesach and unleavened bread is a fast, right? But Yahuwah didn't tell you to fast, right? But it said right here, but not a fast in them, but go into thy field, the field of flowers. Into the what? into the field of flowers, where no house is built, and eat only flowers of the field. Eat only the grass, eat only herbs. Eat the Chdsh. I hear every herb you see for plant for food. You know what it's gonna do? It's gonna open your eyes, your iron. You know your iron, your 7 eyes. Chdsh. It had an iron at the end. It's gonna make you glisten. It's gonna make you glisten. Go into the flower and eat the flowers of the field and taste no flesh, no flesh, and drink no wine, but eat flowers only. Why would he say that? Because it's gonna open your eyes. And you know what it says? And pray unto the highest continually, then I will come and talk with thee. And you know, people say, I want Yahuwah to talk to me. You gotta be in the right state of mind. You gotta be in the right state of mind. This ain't no, you gotta be in the right state of mind. Verse 26, so I went my way into the field. He did exactly like Abraham did. Anytime Yahuwah spoke, he just did it. He said, I'm gonna do it. So I went my way into the open field, which is called Ardah. What is Ardah? Like as he commanded me, and there I sat among the flowers, and did eat herbs of the field. And then we eat the Pesach with bitter herbs, didn't we? And the meat of the same satisfies me. He said, the meat of the food of herbs satisfied me. The same way when people eat flesh of animals. He said, that meat satisfied me the same. And get what it said. After 7 days, I sat upon the grass. So after 7 days, he sat upon the grass. He's like, man, I'm out in the field. After 7 days. You get what he said? And my heart was vexed. My heart was vexed. It was heavy. It was real heavy within me. It was real heavy. You know why? Like as before. You know why he's vexed on the inside and he heavy? Because Yahuwah just filled him with more burdens and more vexation and more weights. Because remember, he in the field eating flowers, so he got a lot. You can put a lot on him. He can carry a lot more when you ain't got no weights. And guess what it's all gonna be? It's gonna be all for Yahuwah. Right? So you look at that word for Ardah, it's a feminine name in Hebrew origin meaning bronze or blooming meadow. A grove of oak trees. He said, what grows out there? Blooming meadows, right? So you dandelion flowers, right? Hyssop, right? Right, you got oak trees. Usually things grow from oak trees like dandelions. You even have mushrooms that grow near. You have certain things that grow near these areas. But he said it's like a grove of oak trees, a blooming meadow. That's what Ardah. He said, go in the field of flowers. Right, this is where he was. He said, go into the meadow right here, the flowers, among the flowers. Right, this is another example, but go into the place where flowers are and just sit in the middle of the field. Can you imagine somebody just sitting out there and eating flowers every day and just sitting out there in the middle of the field every single day for 7 days? All right, this is the book of Sirach 37, 25 through 31. The days of the life of man may be numbered, but the days of Yasharal are innumerable, because it's like Yahuwah's thoughts. It's like heavy like the sand of the sea. And what happened? A wise man shall inherit kabod among his people, and his name shall be a perpetual. It shall be continual. My son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. For all things are not profitable unto all men. Everything not profitable. Everybody can't carry burdens. Everybody can't carry heavy weights. That's why a man is built to carry a lot more than an Isha. That's why she's a little bit stronger. A woman, Isha, is built to carry a child. A man can't. You can carry a child after it's born. But everybody got to carry their burden. If you can understand that. And it says right here, my son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. For all things are not profitable unto all men, neither have every soul pleasure in everything. Be not unsatiable in any dainty thing, nor too greedy upon meats. He said, upon food. For excess of food bringeth sickness. Right? Excess of food brings sickness. That's what meats is. Food. And surveying will turn into color. By surveying have many perished. By eating a lot of food. That's what meats is. Akla. Lakam. He said many perish. But he that taketh heed prolongeth his life. People say, I want to live. Right? So unsatiable is incapable of being satisfied or satiated, greedy, unappeasable. That's why when the children of Yasharal came out of Mizraim, in Numbers 22, they were complaining about everything. They complained all the way through the whole thing. Because they so used to eating excess of food and stuffing their face. And they were greedy. And guess what happened? Dainty is fastidious or difficult to please, typically concerning food. It ain't always got to be food. But most likely, people will complain about their food faster. The same way people complain about relationships, complain about one thing or two things, complain when something's spilled on the floor, complain, mumble and grumble, complain when they got to pick up a shovel, or to plant a seed, or to do anything. They complain. It ain't just got to be excess. How you say excess? If anything, dainty thing. Now you see why he says, Shaul said, I learned how to be hungry, I learned how to be full. I know how to be exalted, I know how to be abased. In all things, I learned how to be content. Because if you don't learn that, especially for this, Pesach, what's going to happen to you? What happened to all the people that did this? Who weren't humble? Get what it says? Choler is what? So he said overeating meat, food, anything, or overly complaining, or overly mumbling, or overly slandering and gossiping and all these things. This is what they do to your body. It turns into choler. It means bodily humors or tumors, right? They say humors, but humors, right? And it says right here, identify with bile, bodily humors. Identified with bile and believed to be associated with to cause irritability or irascibility of temper. One of the four bodily humors identified as bile believed to be associated with peevish or irascible temperament. Right? So overeating food will cause you to be peevish, which means they put these words in here. Peevish means easily irritated, especially of unimportant things. He said you're going to be peevish of unimportant things. It makes you real irritable. It says irascible, having or showing a tendency to be easily angered. especially when you're not satisfied or you're greedy or unappeasable person. If you're an unappeasable person, then guess what? You're going to be easily angered. Why do you think they say Mashah was the most meekest man on earth? He wasn't easily angered. And get what it says? Servating, cause someone to desire no more of something, or as a result of having consumed or done in excess. It's going to cause you to be a servator. That's what overeating is. Eating something in excess. And guess what happens? You become easily angered. Right? Easily angered, right? This is the apocalypse of Abraham. Pseudepigrapha, volume 1, chapter 9. Then a voice came speaking to me twice. How many times did he speak to Shalom? When he told him to stop what he was doing. Yahuwah speaking once, yea, twice. And he said, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, here am I. He wasn't like, he knew Yahuwah. And get what he said? And he said, behold, it is I, fear not, for I am before the world and mighty, the Elohim who created previously, before the light of the age, and I am a protector for you, and I am your helper. Go get me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old goat, and a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a pigeon, and make me a pure sacrifice. And in this sacrifice I will place the ages, and I will announce to you guarded things, and you will see great things which you have not seen, because you desire to search for me. And I call you my beloved, but for 40 days abstain, But for 40 days abstain from every kind of food cooked by fire. Right here, who gave him a commandment about his eating habits. And from drinking wine. And from anointing yourself with oil. So he literally tells him to give up your food. And get what he said, because you know you got to give up your food, because you know when you approach your food, you can't be easily angered. You can't be peevish. You gotta be able to be satisfied. So you gotta give up all that stuff in order to do these things or approach him. Amazingly, that's what they're doing. That's what we're doing when we come out of Mizraim. And amazing, when they left out of Mizraim, the only thing they had was their eating and their bread, and they were walking too, which means they were exercising while eating unleavened bread. They were walking. You know, people can't eat. He said they were eating and they were walking the whole time. And it says right here, it says, of wine and anointing yourself with oil, and then you shall set out from me the sacrifice which I have commanded you in the place where I will show you, on a high mountain. And there I will show you things which were made by the ages, by my debar and affirmed, created and renewed. And I will announce to you in them what will come upon those who have done evil and just things in the race of man. You read about it in some of it in Ezra, but he said, I'm going to show you. But guess what it says? This, chapter 10, verse 1, Pseudepigrapha, Apocalypse of Abraham, right? And it came to pass, when I heard the voice pronouncing such words to me, that I looked this way and that, and behold, there was no breath of man. And my ruach was amazed, and my soul fled from me, and I became like a stone, and I fell on my face down to the earth, and there was no longer strength in me to stand up on the earth. And while I was still face down on the ground, I heard the voice speaking, go, Leoel, Eoel, of the same name, through the meditation of my ineffable name. Consecrate this man for me and strengthen him against his trembling. And the Malach, or the angel he sent to me in the likeness of a man, came, and he took me by my right hand. He took me by what? By my yard, my right hand, and stood me on my feet. And he said to me, stand up, Abraham, friend of Elohim, who has loved you. Let human trembling not enfold you, for lo, I am sent to strengthen you. You know, it talks about those who abstain from certain foods. He said they lack human strength. But he said, I come to strengthen you and to barak you in the name of Elohim, creator of Shamayim, and earthly things who have loved you. Be bold and hasten to him. I am Leoel, and I was called, so by him who causes those with me on the seventh expanse. On the what? On the seventh expanse. On the firmament, to shake a power through it says the medium of an ineffable name. That means to think on. It says, effable name of me, and I am the one who has been charged according to his commandment to restrain the threats of the living creatures of the cherubim against one another. And guess what else? And I teach those who carry the song through the medium of man's night of the 7th hour. Right? And it says, I am appointed to hold the Leviathans. He appointed to hold the who? The Leviathans. Guess what? Because through me is subjugated the attack of the menace of every reptile. You know, reptilians? Or the reptiles. That's what it says here. And get what it says. And I am ordered to loosen Hades and to destroy. Those who wondered at the dead. And guess what else? I am the one who ordered your father's house to be burned with him. You know, he burned his father's house when he was worshiping idols. And guess what? For he honored the dead. I am sent to you now to barak you in the land which he whom you have called the Eternal One has prepared. For your sake, I have indicated the way of the land. Stand up, Abraham, go boldly, be joyful, and rejoice. Take away your burdens and your heavy burdens on you. Because that's the only way you're going to loathe what Yahuwah speaks. He said, be joyful. I don't want to be joyful because you got heavy weights. But it says, and I rejoice, and I also rejoice with you, for a venerable honor has been prepared for you by the Eternal One. Go, complete the sacrifice of the command. Behold, I am assigned to be with you and with the generation, which is predestined to be born from you. And with me, Michael, barak you forever. Be bold and go. Last couple slides. Right, let me stop. This is Apocalypse. This is chapter 11. And I stood up and saw him who had taken my right hand and set me on my feet. And the appearance of his body was like sapphire. He was like sapphire. And get what it said? And the aspect of his face was like chrysolite, and the hairs of his head like snow. And get what it said? And a Chdsh was on his head. Its look that of a rainbow, and the clothing of his garments was purple. Amazingly, you know what it says? And a golden staff was in his right hand. Amazingly, when they stripped Yahushua of his clothes, they put on him a purple robe. And they put a reed in his hand. And they mocked him. And they said, Hail, Malachah the Yahudim. Didn't they say that? And he said to me, Abraham. And I said, here is your servant. What do you think Yahushua was when they were doing that to him? And you know what he said? Let my appearance not frighten you, nor my speech trouble your soul. Come with me, and I will go with you visible unto the sacrifice. But after the sacrifice, invisible forever. Be bold and go. Right, so we look at all that. We're going to stop here and continue on. But at the same time, we look at all this. He said the knowledge of the Pasach. And we look at, he said, the bitter herbs and eating the sheb. But then also you look at the heavy burdens that one has still holding of Mizraim. Right? We look at ourselves, we look at our individual self, and we look at our individual knowledge and understanding. And then we look at our inner being, and we look at our inner thoughts, And we ask ourselves, what does one have to get rid of in order to be in the right state of mind when they say when it's not only this time, but also when it's time for the rest of this whole year to go by. So we look at our ayin, we look at our visible sight, we look at our eyes that glisten, but then we look at to glisten, but also to see, be able to see during this time. Why? Because at the same time, when we look at being on watch and being understanding what a watch is, but then we got to understand what is really holding us down, what has us bound, right? Is it Leviathan? Is it another spirit? Is it a being? Is it something that's within oneself? Right? Only one can make that determination. Right? So we'll continue on at another date. But at the same time, he said, well, at another time, right? We'll continue on. And we'll be back with the next part. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.